Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you're having a splendid day. I know I am. Just hit a back workout. If you don't know me, my name is Joey, and I post fitness content mostly on other platforms. But when it comes to YouTube, I tend to just sit and yap about things that I think are important to me, sort of philosophical stuff or things going on in my life or an overarching idea that I feel like I need to talk about. So last time I talked about why I'm actually optimistic about Gen Z. And before that, I actually don't remember what it was. But that was like my first video. Now, today, we're talking about, me personally, why I feel so lonely recently and why the season of waiting is something that we all need to get used to. And this mostly is a note to self. I struggle so much with being impatient and just wanting things to happen now, and I'm constantly looking at my future long term, even like in a few days, and it gives me tons of anxiety, overarching. It doesn't really go away. I guess it's not overwhelming, but it's just constant, like a small state of anxiety that I find myself in. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So that's why I feel okay to talk about it. That's why I think it's important to talk about, because I feel like, I did mention this in the one about Gen Z, actually. I think Gen Z is very productive. I think they want to get a ton of stuff done, but I think they are also the most unhappy generation right now. Gen Z is just typically very, very unhappy, very, very ambitious, though, and that is a positive, and that's why I said I am optimistic about Gen Z, but we're also very unhappy and very anxious. I know someone that I was listening to recently said 2 words to describe Gen Z is ambitious and anxious. And I couldn't have said it better. Well, I just did try to say it better, and I did not. So that's that. But personally, I have just felt so impatient with things going on in my life. I moved across the country from New Hampshire to Tampa, Florida, about 22-hour drive, 1,500 miles away from home. And this is the first time I have been away from home for a extended period of time. And I haven't seen my family in 2.5 months. I'm going to see them in a few weeks, so it'll be about 3 months since my last time seeing them. And that's the longest I've ever gone without seeing my family. And so I personally feel very lonely right now. But I'm also learning that I'm in a season of waiting. And I took the step to come down here from New Hampshire mostly because God told me to come down here. It was a very odd interaction. It wasn't a particular moment, although I do remember the moment where I made that decision and where I really felt like God was telling me to do it. I was laying in my bed and I was just praying to God, like, hey, God, please take people out of my life that are not meant to be there. Because I heard from a friend, if you pray that prayer, God will almost always answer it, and it'll always be a positive thing. And it's going to hurt because people are getting taken out of your life that maybe you don't want them to be taken out of. But it's a positive thing in the long run. So I was praying that prayer, and I just felt this overwhelming voice telling me, Joey, we don't need to take people out of your life. You actually need to get out of your comfortable life here. And you need to, and then by that point, I wasn't told to come down here, but there was a series of events, and eventually I came to the conclusion that, hey, I think I'm meant to be down in Florida. I think I'm meant to pursue something completely different than what I was pursuing back at home. And part of the just extracting myself from my comfortable life and bringing myself to another area came with a ton of implications. It means I had to make new friends. It means I don't have a job. It means I am pursuing a new career, so I don't even know where to get started. And all of these things that I spent 4 years after high school, getting very concrete in my ideas, getting very concrete in what I do day to day, and just stripping myself from that and moving across the country has been an overwhelming experience. And that's the only word I can use for it, because it's been overwhelmingly positive, but also overwhelmingly negative in a lot of ways. So some of the ways that it's been very, very positive is that my relationship with God has become very, very strong compared to what it was back home. Now, I've been a Christian my whole life. I remember giving my life to Jesus when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I'm 22 now, and I really didn't take my faith super seriously until I was about 19. So the past 3 years, I've had a very strong faith. But since I have moved out of my comfortable life, I have realized that I really do need God. When you're back home and you're comfortable and you're living with your parents, or at least you have your parents around, you're always seeing them and they can help you out whenever you need help, and you have that backbone, you just don't feel the necessity for God in your life. I don't know how to explain it unless you've felt it. So that's one of the positive things. I've made new friends at this point, so that is also a very, very positive thing. They're godly people. They're amazing. They're so friendly. And I found a church, and I've noticed that God isn't just at this church that I used to go to. God's everywhere. God's down in Tampa. God's up in New Hampshire. God's over in Africa. God's over in Europe and in the rest of the country. It's just where He's with His people. He's with His people. And the ways that moving has been negative is that I was expectant. I was very expectant of things to happen very quickly because I took a step of faith in moving down here. And it wasn't my idea, and I did not want to move, but I felt like God was telling me to. Therefore, taking that step, I kind of have this expectation that, God, you need to work and you need to make something happen because I'm doing this for you. And that is a struggle that I am struggling with day to day a lot. I feel very lonely, especially these past couple weeks, although I'm very nonchalant when it comes to my feelings. Like, I realize that anyone who's spent 2.5 months away from their entire family and friends that they've known their entire lives is just going to feel lonely, if they've never done it before. So I'm not surprised that I feel lonely, if that makes any sense. But I am very impatient right now, and I'm having a tough time trusting God's plan. And there's just so many ways that God has been speaking to me recently in this past week that I've really, really been struggling and really, really been praying to God, like, hey, I need help. Like, I'm very impatient and I'm very anxious about what's going on. I feel like a loser not having a job, and I want to do the social media thing. I want to make it work, but nothing's really gained traction yet. And I just feel like I'm walking, but I'm not going anywhere. I feel like I'm running, but I'm not going anywhere. And that's just how I feel. And so I've been praying to God, hey, please, help me trust your plan and such. And God just has a way of speaking to me that I think He does personally with everyone in a different way. But for me, it's really incredible. It's really incredible. So I was feeling really anxious the other day, and on Monday, what is today, Friday? So earlier in the week, I felt very anxious, and usually when I feel anxious, I run to Matthew 6, where Jesus is doing the Sermon on the Mount, and He's telling the multitude of people, who by being anxious will add a single hour to their span of life. And He goes on, and right before that, actually, so I read the entire chapter of Matthew 6, and right before He goes on about the anxiety, He talks about this: the eye is the lamp of the body, and if the lamp is dark, then the rest of the body is dark as well. And this is, this pertains to our eyes, what we're looking at, what we're focusing on. If we're focusing on darkness, the rest of our body is going to be full of darkness, and the opposite is true as well. If we are focused on Jesus and we're focused on God, our whole body will be full of light. And when I was reading Matthew 6, when I was anxious, this verse really stuck out to me, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, that's something, huh? And then later that night, I go to church group. We're going over recapping the sermon from the day before, and my group leader points out this specific verse. I'm gonna pull it up right now. Okay, so it's Matthew 6:22, and it says, "The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?" And it goes on to talk about how we cannot serve two masters. We can't serve money. We can't love money and love God at the same time. And it was very, very odd. And in that moment, I was sitting there as other people were rambling on, talking about this verse that he just brought up. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is God speaking to me right now in this moment, telling me, hey, just focus on me. Just focus on me and everything will be okay. And since then, you may think that, oh, this reignited the fire inside of me. I'm so excited. I've been working harder and harder, and I'm super patient now. That's not true. Honestly, that's not true. This whole week has been very, very tough, and I want things to get done, and I feel like a loser. And since I'm going home soon, I want to go home and not feel like I just wasted the past 3 months. I'm going home and I'm coming back. I'm only going to be there for a week or so, but I don't want to go home and see my parents and say, yeah, honestly, I haven't really made any progress. So God is teaching me patience. It's that whole thing about, hey, if you want to teach a man patience, if you were God and you wanted to teach someone patience, would you give them everything they wanted right away? No, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably put them in a lot of situations where they were impatient and had to learn to be patient outside of their choice. And I'm finding myself in that situation right now. Right now, I'm looking for more opportunities, and I think that's another important thing. I'm not just waiting for God to make moves in my life. God wants us to make moves in our life, and He will either open the door and blessings will flow through, or God will close the door and we'll move on to the next one. And this is something that I was actively teaching someone else on Monday. So he was, there was this guy at our group, and apparently he has a very good voice, and he was saying how he wants to sing for the church, but he feels like he's too new in his faith to do something like that for the church. And I was like, hey, man, if you're good at singing, first of all, God's going to want you to do that. God's going to want you to use your skills, use your talents to bring Him the most glory that is possible. And then second of all, if you just pursue that, if you think it's a positive thing and you pursue it, if God wants you to do it, He will bless it. He will allow it. He will push you to the top. He will make it evident, very evident, that this is what you are meant to do. But He also will close that door if it's not meant for you. So I told him to start pursuing that. And then right now, in that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to take my own advice and really try and do these different things. And God will either open the door or He'll close the door. He'll close the door. He'll close the door 15, 20, 25 times. But then that one door will open where God's like, hey, yep, go all in. And I'm hoping it will be very evident. And in the past, for me, it very much has been. And I'm praying so much that God opens a door or shows me an opportunity that I can pursue, because I took the step of faith to come down to Florida because I knew God wanted me here. And it's been very, very tough since then. But I hope other people can relate to this, because I hate all this talk on the internet about, oh yeah, I took this one tiny step of faith and God transformed my entire life. Okay, that sounds bad. But people are talking about yeah, I had this one interaction and it was very evident that God was speaking in my life. And after that, I've had no issues. And no, that's not how the Bible works. We will have doubts. We will struggle to trust God's plan in our lives, even if we've heard His voice very clearly in the past. And if we are 100% confident He's real, we all still have doubts. We all still doubt His plan. If you know 100% that Jesus is real, that God is real, that your faith is legit, you're still going to struggle realizing His plan. You're going to be confused at times. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like God is not answering your prayers. You're going to feel like God is not walking with you. And the truth, He is. But it doesn't feel like that a lot. And I don't want to act like I am perfect. I don't want to act like my faith is the best out there. I just want to be honest, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, because I wish that other people talked about this sort of stuff online. But either way, if you made it this far, thank you for listening, and pray for me. So pray for me for wisdom, pray for opportunities for me, and pray that I will take advantage of those opportunities when they come up, and pray that God closes the doors that He wants closed and open the doors that he wants open. Yeah, thank you for listening. I guess I'll be back at some point. I don't know. It's been good, I guess. I'm so tired. I'm so confused, and I'm so lost right now. But I'm trying to stay positive. So have a great day, everyone.